Good afternoon and welcome to Cat Chat Live. So glad you could join us today. My name is Nancy Stevens. I serve as UK's Parent and Family Communications Manager in the Office for Student Success. And shortly, you'll get to meet my wonderful colleagues in CARE's First Generation. But before we get started, want to, of course, welcome you to Cat Chat Live, but share a couple of reminders and announcements before we turn things over to our guest in today's discussion of First Generation College Celebration Day and the way that UK supports all of our first generation students. So as a reminder, if you haven't participated in one of our Cat Chat Live webinars before, we're using the Zoom webinar platform. And so the best way for you to communicate with us is to use our Q&A feature. We'll be taking questions throughout your presentation. We'll address them all at the end, but you can ask at any point in today's webinar, and we'll make sure you get the information that you're seeking. If you're not watching us live and joining us later, you can always email parents@uky.edu with your questions, and we'll make sure that you get the information that you're after. We can't see or hear you. So again, the Q&A feature is the best way to communicate with us, but your questions are important to us. At the very end of today's webinar, you'll see a survey, or if you're watching the recording later in our Cat Chat family community, there'll be a link to our survey. Your feedback about these Cat Chat Live webinars is very important to us. We want to make sure we're providing timely topics that meet the needs of our Wildcat families, and certainly for our students that we're all here together supporting. For the Cat Chat family community, want to make sure that that you all know about all of the features there. It's a way that you can connect with Cat Chat Live for sure in our future webinars. Throughout the school year, we're continuing to add additional topics of interest to parents and families and supporters of our students. The next one we have after today is actually next week on the 12th, and I'll put a registration link in the chat. But on the 12th, we'll be talking with a variety of campus partners about how to support your student around Thanksgiving break. We know that that's a critical point after fall break, after midterms, but before finals. And so as your students are hopefully able to spend time with family and friends at Thanksgiving, you all may have be hearing questions, concerns from them, and we want to make sure that you have some tips from our academic partners, from some of our mental health partners, all of those good, important resources about how to support your student around Thanksgiving. So I hope you can join us for that. Registration, again, I'll put the link in the chat, but it's also in the Cat Chat family community. We hope you're using the Cat Chat family community as a resource, as a way to get information about the university and all the resources that we have to support students and families. If you're not using the Cat Chat family community or want to change or further customize your experience there, you can use the URL go.uky.edu/catchat to connect with all of the resources there. So those are all my announcements and things that I want you to know. But now I want to turn things over to my wonderful colleagues in CARE's First Gen. Kayla and Walter, thank you so much for being with us here today, and happy First Gen College Celebration Day.
All right, good afternoon, everyone. Excited to be with you all. As Nancy said, we are from CARE's First Generation, an academic and support service here on campus. I'm Kayla Gill. I'm the Associate Director of CARE's First.
And good afternoon, everyone. My name is Dr. Walter Malone. I serve as the director for CARE's First Generation. We're so happy for you all to be with us today so that we can not only kick off our celebration for First Gen, but also talk to you all about some great services that we provide and ways to really support our First Gen students. So our team consists of about eight, I think it's eight of us, eight program advisors and assistant directors and associate directors. Our program advisors are really here to provide support. They have a caseload of our first gen population students, and making sure that they have the resources and support that they need in order to thrive and overcome any challenges or just to celebrate them. We do a ton of different programming. We have a ton of different services such as tutoring, and some of our academic services, workshops, things that really helps to build their skills and development when we're talking about matriculating through college and making sure that they are able to be successful while they're here.
And we have an amazing team of folks, which is why we wanted to also give them a shout out, even though they are not on the webinar with us today. And so I believe this is the time that we'll be able to do a quick poll, Nancy, just a pulse check. So just sort of checking in to see how you're feeling, and just talking about your student's journey. So if you could share in the poll maybe one word or how you're feeling currently about your student's journey here at UK.
Hopefully folks will see that there on their screen, just the one question, and hopefully if you're on the go, maybe on a mobile device, you can take a minute and share that. I'll give you another few seconds to let us know how things are going, and then we'll see those results. All right, Caitlin, Walter, you seeing that as well? Panicking because I haven't got any financials is the main one that we're seeing right now. So we
Okay.
can chat about that as we're going along.
Absolutely. No, thank you for sharing that. The point of that, and again, thank you, Nancy, was just sort of to see like what is the pulse right now of our first gen families, because we also want to use that as a starting point to start conversations that you may need. And again, like Nancy said, we're happy to chat next week or after to sort of mitigate some of the feelings that you're having. So thank you for being willing to share.
All right, so we wanted to provide you all with a little bit more about us and our mission and how we approach and serving students. So CARES First Gen, Center for Academic Resources and Enrichment Services, and Generation Services provide an empowering community that guides and inspires all students to successfully complete their academic journey, cultivate their sense of belonging, and prepare them to become leaders on a global stage. In addition, we serve William C. Parker Scholars and first generation students, serving as a key resource for their academic success, personal growth, and professional development. So as they come and meet with us and as we're reaching out to them, again, we're walking them through a lot of different processes or challenges that they may be encountering, and providing them with that safe space and that support that they may need as they're matriculating through college. And we're serving them for the entire 4 or 5 years that they're here, just to make sure that they have all the different resources that they need. And then oftentimes, if we're not able to provide those particular resources, we have really great relationships with our partners across campus to be able to get them to the right offices that they need in order to get the services to be successful.
All right, so just a little bit more about who we are and the students that we serve. Of course, we are celebrating First Gen Day today, so I also want to start off with some facts about First Gen here at the institution. So what we do know is about 1/3 of our incoming classes each year are first generation students. And so that is super exciting for us because as the classes grow, so does the so does the enrollment of our first gen students. So each year we're seeing an increase. So it's in about 26% for our first gen students each year. We also know that students, and also including your first gen students who participate in our programming, they have a 0.7 higher GPA than those who do not, which is also awesome. And so we have study resources, as Walter mentioned. We have learning labs. We also do a lot of great programming, as he mentioned, and all of it is a support and wraparound service for these students. They become our family too, if they have not already told you. And so we do a lot around intrusive advising and making sure that we're really creating strong relationships and rapport with these students. And then as far as student meetings, we're averaging more than 2,000, right? And so that's among 8 people. That's not one person doing over the 2,000 meetings. That wouldn't be possible, but just goes to show that the hard work that we put in to meet your student where they are, whether that's staying after, whether that's meeting on Zoom, or even just talking through crisis, that is what we love to do, and that's what we're here for. So having this connection today with our parents is super important to us, so that maybe if your student is not connected to our services, that you can give them a slight nudge to maybe go over and meet with some of the Cares First folks.
Thanks, Kayla. So in addition to all of those things in terms of serving your first-gen scholars, it encompasses a range of different scholarships that is funded by prominent families and donors. And these scholarships aim to also support them in having the opportunity to be the first in their immediate family to graduate from a four-year institution. And so below you can see the various scholarships that are being offered from our donors, which we greatly appreciate. And I know there was in the very beginning, some conversation around funding. And so those scholarships are to really benefit those students to make sure that they have the resources, the financial resources that they need in order to be successful here on campus.
Yes, and just a slight addition to that. And so if you and your student are currently looking for first-gen scholarships, please check out UK-wide Scholarship Universe. It's a great portal to be able to type in your demographics and your student information to be able to see the scholarships that are available to them. These scholarships are for first-gen students, but a lot of these are sort of given out before they get here, and we are giving these students who we love and work with. And so they could be a little bit more limited in their ability to really go for other families. So Scholarship Universe is a great place to check out if you're looking for additional scholarships. Cool. And so I will jump into, so we also wanted to talk about a couple of the resources that we have on campus for students, just to highlight what some of this programming looks like. So we actually have a living learning community, which we love because it's an opportunity for our first-gen students to live in a residence hall together. This year, we had the great opportunity to partner with Children Hall, where our students live closer to the library, if you're familiar with that side of campus. And those students are all given a peer mentor. They have monthly programming just for their specific cohort. And they also have a great LLP Director Alexis Meza, who leads this effort for us. We see a lot of our students who are in our LLC succeed in being able to retain and get really connected to campus. If anything, our first-gen LLC is really great at creating that family sort of structure, right? A home away from home, because they have that sort of rapport with their peer mentors. And also, these are the people that they see every day. So think about that first week of school when maybe a lot of students didn't have that sort of group of friends. These students knew people and were able to go to places like K-Week together or check out, large scale events. And so if your student is interested, it doesn't even have to be our LLC, but maybe another LLC on campus. We strongly encourage first-gen students to be a part of living learning communities because we know when they are a part of them, they have more success rates. So want to throw that out, but we have an amazing LLC housed under us as well.
That's great, Kayla. In addition to that, we also know how important it is for that student belonging and for students to feel connected and also engaged on campus. With that being said, we have our first generation student organization that is led by one of our program advisors, Tatiana King. And so that organization is really to support their academic and education and promote their needs as they matriculate to college, like we've said. This is an opportunity for them to connect with individuals that may have similar experiences and to do programming and to help each other out as they go and really to feel that sense of connection and belonging on campus. And so if your student is wanting to be more connected on campus and connect with their peers, we know sometimes it can be really difficult to find that peer group. This would be a really great opportunity for them to connect with. And there's a QR code there that can be scanned for individuals who are interested.
Okie doke. And so we also have an amazing honor society called Alpha 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 Honor Society, but we shorten that and say Tri Alpha. And so what is so special about this particular honor society is that it is chartered on campuses across the US, but it's specifically for first generation students, right? So not only just honoring their academic success, but also honoring that they are first gen, they are breaking barriers, and they are creating an impact on not only just their campus community, but their communities at home as well. And so our honor society does an induction every fall. And so this year we're preparing for next Wednesday, to have our honor society induction. And it is for students who are sophomores and up with a 3.2 or higher GPA. Your student may have received an email from us inviting them to be a part of that honor society. Sometimes we know students get a bunch of emails. And so even if they didn't join this time around, they can also join next year as well. What is also great about being part of this is it's also an organization. So just as Walter was talking about our first gen org, this is a great opportunity for students to plug in, meet other students who have similar experiences, love to be academically sound, and have a great support system in our program advisor, Annie Johnson, as well. So something that we always love to highlight is our Tri Alpha Honor Society, because we know how important and impactful it can be for our first gen students.
So this upcoming week, we will be celebrating all of our first gen students. So this is our first gen week, and it's National First Generation Week, where we get the opportunity to celebrate, connect, and really honor the lived experiences of our first generation students. This gives first generation students not only a platform to tell their story and to engage with other individuals that are similar, but also to connect with many of the faculty, staff that are on campus that also share being first gen, and their story and narratives as to how they were able to matriculate through their college experience. So if you have a student who is first gen, we would love to see them next week engaged in the many different activities that we have throughout the week. We are really looking forward to that as we celebrate them.
Yes. And Nancy taught me this great saying of nudge the nudgers. And so we know that you can send this to your student and really encourage them to go. So please feel free, if you want to take a picture of the slide and say, hey, did you know this was happening? And text it over to your student to make sure that we see them next week for First Gen Week. And so now we are transitioning more into talking about where you are as a family, and also sort of describing where we know our students are as far as their matriculation right now, wherever they may be, whether first through senior year. And so it sort of gives you an idea of like, okay, what is my student doing? What are they up to on campus? What does that look like? And what are some things that we can sort of expect just as far as conversations when they come home, or maybe some behaviors and changes in behaviors that they may have as first gen students, to sort of give you some peace of mind around what the experience is for your first gen student. And so I'll go ahead and jump into this one. So as you know, being first gen student, and we know that our first gen students can excel academically and really compete with their non-first gen peers, right? And so what we are seeing, and just a small glimpse, is they're still adjusting to this course load. And so what we were here, just to give you a sneak peek, we hear a lot of students say, well, I didn't have to study this hard in high school, right? Like I didn't have to take on a lot of the same note-taking skills and listening to lectures. And we understand that. So a lot of them, we're seeing that adjustment, right? So they're taking usually normally 15 to 18 hours of coursework and doing some of those core classes. You know, maybe your student came in with a lot of dual credit, which we also see too, but there's still this adjustment cycle, and that is what we're in. And so what I would say, especially for you first year parents, is that it's completely normal, and that usually that this first semester is like really to get their feet wet and to get those skills and to really get acclimated. So if they're having some growing pains, that's completely normal. We also see them sort of still adjusting to time management skills, right? It's a lot different when, you have your high school sort of hours and then, you have your free time and maybe your extracurriculars, but now it's up to them to create that. So sometimes what we see is that autonomy can create some stress. And so they love the autonomy and love being able to have their free time and build that. But sometimes they don't know exactly what to do. And so a lot of what we've been doing too with our first gen students and our one-on-ones is talking about what are you doing in that free time and how you're using it. How are you studying? Where are you studying? Where are you hanging out? And so we really try to do some intrusive digging into what their experiences are, so we can help them sort of build out what that time management looks like. And then we're also teaching them how to navigate campus resources, right? And that's what they're learning. Something that we often hear from our students, and this is any classification, is there are a ton of resources here, right? Which as a parent, that can be very, very warming. But for them, sometimes it can be overwhelming, right? Because there's all these resources. And so I didn't know there was this. I didn't know there was a person that, like an ombud. What is that, right? And so we do a lot of like language talk and like teaching them what those specific resources are, what they mean. And then we do what we like to call concierge service, where we don't just send the students like, hey, you need to go to financial aid. Well, who in financial aid can I connect you with? And so we do a lot of that too. So if you hear them sort of talking about like there's a lot going on, it is, we have a campus of over 30,000, over 600 student organizations and a ton of resources. So they're still trying to figure that out. So completely normal, but that's what we're here for. Anything you want to add, Walter, to that?
No, I think you summed it up. That was great.
Okay.
That's
Okay,
great.
I'll give you the next.
Well, I guess I can add to it on this slide, and just to kind of really support what Kayla was mentioning. And we are dead smack into kind of that midway point where students are starting to receive their midterm grades and kind of get an idea as to where they are with the semester and where they want to go and how they're going to best accomplish their goals for the semester. And so one of the things that we're constantly engaging with our students, and I like to think about the collaboration aspect, is talking about them engaging with their professors and utilizing their peers also. We know that sometimes it can be very intimidating to go to office hours or confusing as to what questions do I ask, how do I get the support that I need from my professor. And so we're having those conversations, as Kayla was saying, and doing some guiding and development in terms of how do you send an email, how do you communicate with a professor, what things can you ask the professor so that you can get your needs met and be successful in the course that you're currently in. And so so we're having those conversations when we're meeting. Kayla briefly talked about the autonomy and balancing that independence and support, and discussing the importance of self-advocation, especially when students are struggling. We know how difficult it is for students to ask for help, and oftentimes they think that they are supposed to do it on their own. But one of the things that we consistently encourage them and to know that they came to college and they have these classes and they have a professor, so that if they run into challenge, those individuals are there to help them. They are not in this alone. And we want them to know and understand that. And so the more that we communicate that, the less they will feel um, kind of afraid of or fearful of asking for that help. And we want to really celebrate that help. I think there's empowerment in going to get and seeking that help. And we know that based off of the research, seeking help and asking for the things that you need also correlates with higher success rates and greater outcomes. And then also, as Kayla was talking about, developing healthy study habits and organization skills. We see that studying habits, it's just different for at college, and then having that autonomy and being able to manage that autonomy, when to study, how to organize your studying, when it's the best time of the day to study. Take some time to really figure out, especially if you didn't have to do that in high school or things were already organized for you in high school. That can be really challenging. So we do have our study labs, which talks about how to organize your schedule, how to create notes, and how to take great notes so that you can be successful, how to prepare for your exams. And then we also have our study hour, which a lot of our students are required to come in to do those study hours, which we've seen that as they are participating in those study hours, those who do participate week in and week out for about an hour are really successful and have higher grades, grade point averages than those who don't. So we really like to encourage our students not only to seek out those resources and build those relationships, but really take the ownership in really developing their skills so that they can be successful.
All right, and so here are a couple more pointers that we're giving our parents, and we know that you are doing an awesome job already, really just to help them get out there. And so some of the themes that you've been hearing Walter and I talk about are like autonomy and the newness to a large space. And so something that we do know is that it can be a bit intimidating. It can be scary for students. And as much as we support them, we're probably not going to go to the SAB event with them, right? And so we have to have those conversations about really getting out there, right? And what does that mean to get out there? And so again, nudging the nudgers to really help you support your student, to encourage them, hey, get out on campus, meet people, learn folks, talk to your professors and all of those things. And so just a couple of things of like how you can support his family is telling them to reach out to their professors, their academic advisors, and also seek mentorship, right? And so again, I know for some of you who may have first year students, it's still early on, but really encourage them, as Walter was talking about, to get to know their people. We harp on that a lot because you never know what opportunities come from knowing people on campus, and that could be research, that could be internships and that sort of thing, but really advise them to get to know their advisors, their professor, and whoever else is what we like to say is like on their team to really get to know those people. Really encourage them to take advantage of campus resources. Like we said, we have tutoring that is open to students. We have a counseling center, and we also have some great wellness resources on campus. And so as Walter was talking about before, we're starting to get some of those midterm grades back. We know that students can sort of have that sort of instant panic depending on where they are, but it's okay. And I always have to tell my like first year students, like, it's okay, like your grades can change and it won't show up in certain places impacting your GPA, but they don't know that, right? And so really encourage them to use those campus resources. You can even just pull up UKY campus resource and send it to them in a text, just say like, hey, if you need anything, here's a full list of everything. And so last but not least, really encourage them to step out of their comfort zone. I would say, as someone who's been here for a few years, we love the beautiful dorms that we now have on campus. We're even building more. But what we see is that students really tend to enjoy those beautiful dorms too. And so we're having to pull them out of them, right? And so we're really having to push students to have that social aspect with their peers, meaning getting out, like even hanging out in Champion's Kitchen or going to any SAB or student org or sort of concert, anything social. We know that is impactful on the student's experience. And I always tell students, you're paying to be here. Let that be a part of your experience too. So encourage them to sort of not have any sort of isolation. We know sometimes, just based on where they are, it could be needed, right? They might need a moment to take a step back, but really encourage them just to get out there. There are people that want to meet them and people that they could impact as well.
And really quick, Kayla really touched on this and mentioning the counseling center. As a first gen student myself, I did not used to ask for help, and nor was I going to talk about any type of emotion. And um, I, I ultimately became a therapist, and that's what my PhD was in, counseling psychology. This is extremely important for students to really take care of their overall well-being, and that's including their physical well-being and their mental well-being. Just as they would go to the doctor if they're sick, we know that there's many different things that can cause students to have stress. College can be stressful, but we do have a lot of help and support in that way. And so if there's any indication that your student may be struggling in that way, we do have our counseling center. We have our TRAC center, which is triage, refer, assist in crisis support program, where they will get them the assistance and the help that they need. You can go to our student success You can go to studentsuccess.uky.edu, get help. If you have any concerns for your students and feel that they need that additional support to really get through any experiences that they're having that may feel overwhelming. We have our fitness center and our recreation center to really provide opportunity for them to engage in stress relieving activities, or just to get away from the academic for a minute, and making sure that they're creating that balance. Being absorbed in academics all the time can be overwhelming, and so we really like to encourage our students to make sure that they are creating some harmony or sense of balance, and getting away from academics every now and again, and that's really healthy for them. And also, as we've talked about throughout this presentation, connecting with a student organization that they feel best represents their ideas and things that they want to experience, gives them a really great and healthy sense of belonging on campus and connection. And we know when students feel connected and they feel a sense of belonging, there are greater opportunities for them to thrive and be successful here on campus.
All right. And so this is something that you can use to just sort of self-reflect, because we know for our students, we talk about that a lot, right? In our one-on-ones, like, you have a lot going on. This has been a transition. We're now moving towards the end of this semester. How are you feeling? And so we want to do that with our parents and families today. And so even though you may not be able to respond, we do want to give you the opportunity to just really self-reflect on this experience for you and your student and where they are, whether they're about to graduate in spring or this is their first semester here. And so just a couple of things to feel about, or to think about, sorry. How are you feeling about your students' transition for those first year families? What resources or support do you feel you need to help your students succeed, right? So something Walter mentioned that is super important is like the get help form. Like, you can use that as a parent, to really have someone check on your child. How do you manage your own feelings of where you're concerned about your students' experience? I know something, especially for first gen families, I am also first gen, is that you really want to be able to help your child, but sometimes you just don't know how, right? Or that family member. It's like, I've gotten you to this point and I know you're going to succeed, but I just don't have that same experience. And that doesn't mean that your values and what you have is worthless, right? Like, that has been able to catapult the student into this college experience. But sometimes it's hard not being able to help on that other side, but you can still provide guidance. And so some of those things that we talked about earlier, like getting out there, encouraging your student to use those resources, you can still be a great support in this. And we know for our first gen families, you tend to show up really well in this aspect. Anything you want to add, Walter?
No, I think the support is really great. Coming into a college as big as UK, having that family support and then encouraging them to really build those resources is really a great opportunity. And please utilize us if you have questions or things that you have concerns about regarding your students. We want to be able to not only support your student, but also support you as well in the family. And so we know that it takes a village, and we really are here to really build on that village and care for our students so that we can provide that home away from home, per se. And so whatever it is that we can be helpful in, we just want to communicate that we're here to do that, to make sure that we can help your student be successful.
Right, so that is actually all that we have, but happy to stay on and support or answer questions. I know it's sort of set up differently in a webinar, but also too, something to note is that our contact information is on this slide. So there may be something that you think of a week from now or tomorrow that you're like, hey, I'm wondering about this, or how can I support my student in this? Feel free to shoot us an email at either one of those. And that goes to all of our staff. So someone, it may not be just me and Walter, will be able to get in contact with you and help you.
So just put a reminder in the chat if anybody has questions that they'd like to ask live. We're happy to take those now. And, if you're watching the recording later, you are certainly welcome to use The email address is on the screen, or to email parents@uky.edu, and we can get you connected with resources on campus. But Walter and Kayla, you all have provided such good information for parents and families, and I love that self-reflection piece there too. I was actually just talking to the mother of an incoming student earlier this morning. She was here on campus. Her student will be starting in the spring. And she was expressing that she didn't really know how to support her student. This is not her first student to go to college, but she said, you know, it's her last, and you know that he's different than the other students she sent, and she doesn't know how to support him. And so one of the suggestions I made to her, and I think this comes more naturally for some families than others. I don't know that my family ever had conversations like this, but I said, well, have you asked him how he wants to be supported? And she said, oh, that's fairly obvious, but I hadn't thought about it. And so I think that for our families who may be questioning, you know, like how do I support my student? I would say ask them how they'd like to be supported. I think they might be really glad that that you ask, and you know, that can be talking about how communication looks, who initiates communication, how often they expect that they'll communicate with you. You can share your expectations and hopes there too. But I think having those intentional conversations, you know, folks sometimes assume that it will just evolve naturally, and sometimes it does. But sometimes if you don't communicate how you want it to look, it doesn't evolve that way naturally. And I know you all know that as well or better than I do.
Absolutely. Yeah, I
Mhm.
1000% agree with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had a couple of questions that I wanted to ask based on conversations I've had with parents and families. So
Mhm.
you all have that wonderful first gen living learning community, and I wanted to get some clarification. If is that for first year students, to returning students come back to it? I know they certainly can in a peer mentor role, but as folks are considering, if they have, you know, current students enrolled here, if they're considering housing for the upcoming year, how does that LLC factor in there?
Yeah, so that's a great question. And so first, if anyone is interested or have direct questions, we can also get you in contact with Alexis Mesa, who is our awesome LLC coordinator, does an amazing job. And so something to think about is that usually first year students get preference, right? And that's just across the board in housing. And so that's also usually true for our LLC. But as Nancy mentioned, if your student is looking for maybe some sort of like leadership experience or mentor piece where they want to be a mentor, they can do that with our LLC. And also too, even if you have a student who is off campus, sometimes we have off campus students who participate in our LLC, so they don't have to actually live in Chilgren to be a part of our LLC. We've sort of said, hey, if you're in our community, you can come to any of the events, you can come to our office and hang out. And so even, you know, not a restricted sort of thing on you have to live there to be a part of it. Like anyone is welcome to participate.
One of the other things I really appreciate about the work that you all do is that you're really intentional about what the support looks like at different points. You know, for our first year students, for the second year students, we know that they're at different points in their journey. So I'm wondering if you could share briefly a couple of examples of, you know, how you support students as they go from their first year to the second year, and how you know, celebrate our students as they're heading into their degree. I know you all do such great programming around that.
Absolutely, and it continues to expand as we are kind of really learning students, and they're bringing in different needs. But that first year, we really want to focus in on making sure that they are familiar and knowledgeable on all the resources that are available to them. And that way, we're constantly communicating with them through their platform called Canvas, which will send out different newsletters or different messages or different tips. For our scholars, they have particular requirements for their scholarship. That's meeting with us, that's attending our kickoff meeting, which really goes over the different requirements that they have and the support that they have access to. We really like to focus in on building really good habits. And so we have a 1 hour study hour requirement for that first semester. And we know that 1 hour is not enough for them to be successful. But what we've seen based off of our data is that participating in that 1 hour a week, they're starting to build habits. And once we see our students coming, week after week, we know based off of the data that those students are likely implementing that strategy and those habits of studying even outside of that 1 hour. And so we've seen their GPAs a lot higher than those who haven't participated in that way. And so we really take a really close and collaborative approach in that first semester. Second semester, same thing, but we're starting to really, well, not second semester, but second year as a sophomore, we're starting to really talk about what are your pathways to career. And what does that look like? And so we're starting to encourage them to go to career fairs and go out and talk with careers about potential career paths that they would like to engage in. As we move into their junior and senior year, we like to talk about leadership. We like to make sure that they are actually practicing some of those career development practices, such as preparing their resume, looking for different co-ops or internships, and having some of those conversations, so that they're well aware of what is this next step for me after college, so that they're not waiting until that last minute and having to figure it out or feel like they have to figure it out by themselves. And so we like to look at the different semesters, and what those needs might be producing, and that can be unique for different students. But for the most part, we like to really focus in on those trajectories as they matriculate through their experiences. Kayla, would you add anything to that?
No, I think that was perfect.
One of the things I so appreciate about your staff is the creative events and programs that I see, and the way you're supporting students academically and supporting them socially. I love the relaxation room that they have opportunity to take part in. Would you be willing to share any examples of some of those creative programs, maybe things that are coming up next week, or things like the relaxation room that are available all the time for our students?
Yeah. Well, I'd be happy to highlight a couple of our first gen week events since they are next week. Because like you said, Nancy, and I appreciate the compliment. We put a lot of intentionality around the experience of first gen students. And what we love about our office is that we know what works for first gen works for all. And so our work can really still happen through a first gen lens and still be impactful in other spaces. And so some of those things we try to wrap in first gen week. And so we are kicking off the week. It's just called a kickoff. It'll be in our space, but it's intentional because one, it brings first gen students to us. We'll also be visited by the financial ombud, who can help your student like lift holds. And also we are going to be joined by UK Invest, which, if your student hasn't told you, is an awesome new resource that we have for students to really start that financial literacy piece, which we know first gen students are. We're also going to do some amazing things with education abroad, because we do have a specific program called Explore First for our first gen students who want to study abroad. So starting to have some of those conversations. We'll do some conversations around just the first gen identity and what that looks like. I think our staff has told us that they would actually be planting some seeds physically. So they'll be taking some flowers home with them, as well as doing some engagement with our faculty and staff. We love to do other fun things too, just outside of first gen week. So we take students hiking. Every fall semester we go hiking, and we do a lot of collaborations with our student orgs and activities to also put movies on for students. And these are some like really cool movies. Like we've done Spider-Man this fall. We did Scream. And so we really try to be really intentional about the movies that we're doing to bring in students. And so again, putting that first gen lens on things to help our students. And Walter, are there any other programs that you want to highlight that might be helpful for families?
Yeah, Nancy, I really greatly appreciate, and wonderful events for next week. I think those are really some great events that we'll be doing. And Nancy, I really appreciate you asking that question, and highlighting the relaxation room. This is one of the times that we like to encourage our students to utilize our relaxation room. This was implemented over a year ago when I first started, and just making sure that we created a space where students can kind of relax. We have two large massage chairs in there that students can go onto our website and schedule an appointment for that, 30-minute sessions, and just take a load off for some self-care. And they can also utilize the room for mindfulness or meditation or whatever brings them that sense of peace and comfort. And so that is a really a great service that this week has been actually a lot of students taking advantage of that. I think one of the other ones that really stands out that we do every year is it's called Roommates, where we're talking about how to work through some of the the difficulties of establishing connection with your roommates and how do you work through conflict and building some conflict resolution skills. That always can be challenging when you're meeting someone for the first time and having to live with them over the semester, and what things you have to reconsider or make adjustments for or be open to. And so that programming we offer annually to just really help students to really build those skills and building their interpersonal skills and working through some of the challenges with roommates sometimes. And then um, um, Kayla actually mentioned this with UK Invest. Every program that we offer is associated with UK Invest. So a student that attends our program will have the opportunity to receive funds to their account if they signed up for UK Invest. And so that I believe they can receive up to, is it 250 a semester? Yeah.
Yes, that sounds right. 500 total for the
Yeah,
year, I
500
believe.
total for the year, and that growth and that will accrue interest, and so it's their money, it will accrue interest, and so that can be significant if they're attending the programs throughout their time here, and how much money they'll have. Think about it in 10 years, 15 years as that accrued interest, and so really wonderful things and kind of unique programs as we uh, as we learn more about our students and their needs and making sure that we are providing them with the service that they need to be successful. So.
Those were some great highlights. Kayla, I'm glad you mentioned Explore First because I think it's been such a wonderful program. I know a lot of the student leaders I've worked with have gotten the opportunity to participate in that and have had some life-changing experiences. Would you mind taking a minute or two to share a little bit more about Explore First and how students can learn more about that program?
Absolutely. I would love to. I thank you for the opportunity to talk about Explore First. And so I will start by saying I am first gen, and when I studied abroad in undergrad, it literally changed my life. And so we know that the students who are going on this program, for them, it is life changing. So a little bit about it. Explore First is an initiative that happens between our Student Success, which is our larger umbrella, and our international education. What this partnership has done, it has allowed 60 first generation students between 2023 and 2024 to study abroad for 3 weeks in either London or Ireland, right? So students get to decide which country that is. Students are put into prep sort of classes where they are taught about like how to pack, what to wear, what are we going to do, all of those sort of like cultural aspects, and really sort of priming them and getting them ready to navigate a different country. Students also receive 3 course credits while they are abroad, which is also a great deal because you get that extra credit while you are in a different country. And so what is also special is that in each of these cohorts, students are going on career site visits, site visits. And so what is that an opportunity to do is visit some of those larger corporations where we take students to LinkedIn. We take students to a Great Construction, which is a huge sort of corporation both in the US and also in Europe. And so they are meeting also like Enterprise, they are meeting people who run these companies, CEOs of companies, right? And being able to really understand what it means to be professional, what that experience is, but also doing this in a whole nother country. I will say as someone, oh, I forgot the most important part, sorry, which a lot of people want to know, is that this is one of the most financially freeing programs because students only have to pay for an application fee and then just their sort of like free money while they're over there, right? So like if they decide they want to go out and do stuff or like explore the city or go to a different country, that is what they're paying for. We pay for their flight and we pay for their stay. And so we have made this experience super affordable to sort of like break down any additional barriers that our first-gen students might meet. We know for some of our first-gen students, this is their first time on a plane, right? It might be their first time of a lot of them out of the country. For most of them it is. And so it's been an honor to serve as a faculty member twice now, both in London and Ireland. If you have a first-gen student who's even mentioned education abroad, or if you have a first-gen student who hasn't even thought about it, right? Like for some of our students, they think, hey, maybe that's not an experience I can have. It absolutely is. And this is the perfect opportunity for them to be able to study abroad. If they are interested, they can reach out to me for now. We do have like a sort of like an interest link that just says, hey, I'm interested in wanting to learn more. And what that does is give them sort of like a skip in line to learn about when the application opens, and they'll get some of those promo sort of marketing pieces early. And so again, please encourage your student if they would like to study abroad. This is an amazing experience.
And Kayla, can you remind us of when a good time is for them to apply for a study abroad?
So like study abroad as far as like their 4-year trajectory, or just
Or for the experience, first experience.
Oh, okay. Yeah, absolutely. And so usually the application opens in late fall. So tentatively, hopefully it opens at the end of this semester or the beginning of spring semester, because we try to use the remainder of the spring semester to get them prepared to be abroad. And so again, if your student sends over just an email or connecting with us to say they're interested, we can keep them on that listserv. So when the application does open, they will be the first to get the application and be able to apply.
Yeah, thanks so much for sharing that additional information about Explore First. We had a question in the Q&A about the name of the program and the application timeline. So I've made sure that I've got the link to the Education Abroad website there.
Thank you. Yeah, that's awesome.
Well, I see that we're getting a little closer to 1 o'clock, and we didn't want to take more than an hour. I know folks are busy, but you all have provided such good information for our first generation families. We know that our first generation students are celebrated today and during First Gen Week, of course, but really supported and celebrated all year round. And you and your team just do such amazing work with them. And so appreciate you making some time to share a little bit more about what you all do. Do you want to share any final thoughts before we wrap it up?
Absolutely. I just want to give a special shout out and again love to our first gen families, because I'm telling you, first gen students are what makes this institution and our greater Commonwealth go round. All of the love and support that you send to them really is impactful. And so we encourage you, just like as you encourage your student to take care of yourself while they are on this journey, because it is an experience for both you and your student. And just thank you for all you do.
I just want to echo what Kayla just said. Thank you for all that you do for our first gen students and for our first gen families in general. We know that resource is extremely helpful in helping feel comfortable and confident that their students are going to be supported. So thank you so much for that. And thanks to everyone who attended today. We really appreciate you and really hope that this overview was really beneficial and you're able to take these resources and share them with your students.
Well, Walter and Kayla, I know that you all have a lot going on today and with all the programming coming up next week. So really appreciate you making the time, and thank you to our families for making the time to learn more about this today. We hope it was helpful to you. We hope you'll make plans to join our next Cat Chat Live on November 12th, and the link can be found in the chat as well as in the Cat Chat family community. Please don't hesitate to reach out if you have any questions after the fact. parents@uky.edu is a great place to go. And then I've put the CARES First Gen emails in the chat as well. And so have a great rest of your day and a great weekend ahead. And thanks so much for being with us. Take care. Bye-bye.